As you can tell from looking at me, I've been doing this since God was a boy and dirt was new. And I have been through probably 7 different versions of what they call sales trainings, from the sell me this pencil to let's find the influencer. All of them have been useful, but in my career, the one that crystallized the most for me was what we're about to talk about this morning. It's called red flag, and there's a simple reason for it. You're in this room already because you're good at sales. You're running successful businesses. You are convincing people to do work with you. And what we're going to talk about today is a way of reconceptualizing the conversation that you're having with prospects and existing clients. Because who are the easiest people in the world to sell to? Somebody who's already bought from you. Is everybody upselling their existing clients, right? Don't lie to me. Because we get busy doing other stuff. So this is more about vocabulary and a framework, not teaching you how to sell, but giving your skills a new path to flow down, okay? So the approach to sales has 3 fundamental truths, and this is the big one. People solve big problems, all right? Nobody buys an opportunity. People buy from us because we're solving a problem that they have in their business. Now, in general, because we're qualified plan folks, people are solving for their qualified plan needs. But are they really? Anybody buying a qualified plan? When you think about it, what's the problem they're solving? Retirement for themselves and their employees. That's the problem. Their problem isn't that they don't have a qualified plan. Their big problem is that when they get to the end of their careers, they would like to retire. And in general, they would like the people who work for them to retire. And so that's the problem. And we have a tendency, and I love my carrier partners, but a lot of this is your fault. We have a tendency to frame things up in terms of product, features, and benefits. And I can tell you right now, that is a slippery slope, because there's always going to be a newer product, a newer feature, or a better benefit to the one you talked about yesterday. So if what you're selling is products, features, and benefits, you're always on a treadmill and you've always got to run faster. If what you're doing is solving problems and you're perceived as the problem solver for your plan sponsor, they will always come to you, and the features and benefits are just the way you present your solution. When given a choice, people fix the big problem before they pursue an opportunity. I hit on this, but, and I'll give you a great example. I was with a plan sponsor. I am in the executive benefits space, so I do top hat plans. I do carve out things for HCEs. I'm with a company that is hiring airplane pilots. In the first 3 months, they spend $90,000 to train these pilots, and then they have to license them and insure them and all these things, and they were having turnover where they weren't keeping most of them for more than 14, 15 months. And I get through this thing and I give them this great pitch on a wonderful solution to that problem, how we're gonna do retention with signing bonuses and yada, yada, and the CEO looks at me and she says, "That's all great, but it's just not the right time for me." Okay, I just told you how we're gonna save you millions and millions of dollars, and you just told me that's not make. So and I had been through red flag training at this point, and I said, so what's the bigger problem? You guys are gonna like this one. I just got a call this morning from the DOL, and they're coming in to audit our qualified plan. I don't even know who my advisor is, and I don't know what to do. And I said, well, if I could get somebody on the phone with you who could help you with all that, would that be a good thing? And she said, you can do that? And I said, you got a minute? And I dialed the phone, solved that problem, and 60 days later, I was back in solving the other big problem. So when you hear no, sometimes the right question is, well, what's the bigger problem? If you've established that they've got a big problem and they don't want to solve it, there's probably something else that's on their mind. And finding out what that is will give you an opportunity to be of use and to become more of a business consultant to them than just somebody that's pushing products at them. People are capable of deciding if they want to fix a problem without knowing how. All right, we're all really smart people, and almost everybody in this room is very technically competent with the qualified plan world. Do I have to tell you how to make this watch to tell you what time it is? How many of you have told a plan sponsor in your career how their 401k works and watched them go to sleep? Because they don't need to know how it works, they need to know that it works. They need to know what time it is. They don't need to know how the gears mesh, unless they ask. Some people are very curious and they want to know. I always have the information. I'm not suggesting that you don't know the answer to how the watch is built, but I'm suggesting that most of the time you probably don't have to give it. And by giving it, we just extend the period of time it takes from us to go from prospecting to closing. And does anybody want to spend more time selling than they're already spending? Good. Anybody who raises their hand, I usually ask them to be escorted from the room because they're crazy. But that is, so these are our 3 fundamental truths that we're going to lean in today. So now let's talk a little bit about our purpose. And one of the reasons I love being in front of this room is because you guys, I've never been with RPAG advisors who don't share this perspective. We are there to create better client outcomes. When we do what we do well, our plan sponsors, people, are better prepared to retire, and if they are feeling better about themselves financially, they are better employees. Productivity is higher, they stay longer, the company grows. When the company grows, the plan grows. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. It's very symbiotic. And you guys, anybody in here not walked into a badly messed up qualified plan? All right, how much stress is that creating? A lot. And when business managers and business owners are stressed about things like that, what are they not doing? Running their businesses, which is how they make money. They don't make money running their 401k or their 403b. That's not how they make money. None of them, unless they're our carrier partners in the room and you guys. So think about that. We got to create better client outcomes. Our role is to help them navigate change. Because fundamentally, if we're there talking to them, we want them to do something different than they're doing today. That's change management. Okay? So think about it that way. And notice, I haven't said we're selling anything. And then our job is to motivate them to take that action. So we have figured out what the problem is. We know what the path to change is, and now we have to convince them to make that change. Didn't sell them anything, did I? Now, if I did that right, they wrote a check. But they don't feel like they got sold to. They felt like they got presented to. So it's about the effectiveness of your sales conversations that determines your revenue profits and new client engagements. We're going to lean into this. And then we're going to hopefully convince you that you want to go from being benefits communicators, and we'll reference back to where I started, where we're talking about features, benefits, things that change. Oh, this is cool. You won't believe this new thing. And the new thing's not going to be new, but for a day, okay? To change navigators. And the big difference there is going from giving information to getting information. Really rethinking your engagement when you're with your existing clients and you're having conversations with them, and when you're with a prospect, to asking questions. Well-prepared questions, understanding what you're going to ask and what you want to get, rather than just sitting down and say, let me tell you. I have a presentation that I use to sell with that I can do the whole thing, and there's 3 slides in the back that talk about who I am, what my business is, and what we do. Because the entire presentation is built around asking questions of them and establishing where their pain points may be in the world that I live in, and identifying their biggest problems. So at the end of the presentation, I could say, okay, did any of those problems really ring a bell with you? Which one should we start working on first? That's a presumptive close. And it works most of the time. And I will tell you, I was not a bad salesperson 6 years ago before I learned how to do this. I'm a much better salesperson today. Good. I'm going to hit right on time, I think, too. Come on, move forward. 2 reasons why we don't win a piece of business. This is research that was done by the gentleman who founded Red Flag, a guy named Chuck Hollander. 1, people don't think the problem's big enough to fix. Go back to my story about they had this huge retention problem. It's costing them a gazillion dollars, but the bigger problem was the DOL call that the CEO had gotten that morning. The second is they don't think that your recommendation will work. Here's a hard truth in that one. It may be they don't think you are the right person to fix the problem. That's part of the recommendation might not work. Sometimes it's personal. Sales is a personal business, and that's okay. Sometimes they just don't like you. They just were in a bad mood the day they met you, whatever. But a lot of times they may have something else in their head. And the big thing, what's the bigger problem? And I say, well, I don't really have a bigger problem. They said, oh, so you're not convinced that what we've put in front of you will work. That's when sales starts. Because if you're convinced you're right, now you have an opportunity to engage in a conversation that if you had just taken the no, you wouldn't be able to engage in. And by the way, I'm encouraging you to use this format to find fast no's. Because getting to no is when sales starts. No doesn't mean always go away. No means I'm not sure you're recommending the right thing, or I'm not sure that's my biggest problem. We want to know. We frequently avoid the no because it feels like rejection. But if we're in the business of selling things, no is when we actually get to work. I love being bought from. I love getting through a whole process and nobody ever said no to me, but I didn't sell anything. Somebody bought something from me, and that's great. That's an easy day. Those are good days, but those are not every day. And a lot of times your best clients are the ones that you have to work the hardest to get because they had more objections, and you've had to expose your intellect, your knowledge, your grace in this industry much more deeply because they said no. So there's a change pattern, there's 5 evolutions, there's 4 quadrants. That's what the folks are gonna be getting up to talk about. We start at satisfied. That means they have what they have and they like it. You're trying to, and you gotta make them aware that they have a problem. Because we walk in a lot of times and what do we hear? Yeah, no, we're good with our provider. We're okay. Well, you know your fees are 40% higher than the industry average. What? Well, I thought you were good with your plan provider. Well, I didn't know they were, I'm not gonna use the word I was gonna use. I didn't know they were being unethical about how they were charging me. And that's the kind of way that goes. Once we make them aware, we gotta get them to decide whether they wanna fix it. And again, we want that no. Because we wanna know, well, if you don't wanna fix it, why not? What's the bigger problem? And if it's not in their qualified space, because of RPAG, you have a lot of access to a lot of other things where you can come in and say, well, yeah, let me help you with that too. And then you become their trusted advisor. Like Solomon said yesterday, you become the person they call first when they have a problem in their business. We explore the options and we pick the best one. And I'm a little over, so I'm gonna go fast here, but you gotta know your customer. Do I have a problem? How big is it? And we'll talk about it. There's a thing we do called pinpointing and calculating. Once we know the problem, well, how much is that costing you a year? Really, how long has it been going on? Oh, it's been costing you $500,000 a year. It's been going on for at least 3 years. So in the last 3 years, this has cost you, counting this year, $2 million. What's gonna change tomorrow that's gonna make that go away? Oh, so nothing. So by the end of next year, this is gonna be a $2.5 million problem. How's your CFO feel about the fact that we've identified a problem that over the last 5 years, last 3 years has cost you $1.5 million. It's gonna cost you $500,000 this year, another $500,000 next year. Don't you wanna fix that? And again, if they say, no, I don't wanna fix that, either they're crazy, and there are some crazy people out there, and they just leave the room, or they have a bigger problem. Or sometimes you've just startled them, and you just need to give them a minute to breathe. That's get up, go to the bathroom, come back, and after because they didn't know they did it. What's the cost, consequences, risk of staying the same? Which is what I just did. That is on a yellow sticky above my desk. Cost, consequences, risks of not changing. Because again, we're asking them to change, and change is scary. People are naturally conservative, all change is bad. Except some people like me, I'm a little crazy, I love change. And then who else is impacted? Because if you can take that problem and say, well, is this an issue for Treasury? Is this an issue for your CFO? Is this an issue for somebody else? And the problem gets bigger then. And then you automatically say, well, let's get them in the room. Because usually we're talking to somebody who says, well, I can't make this decision by myself. So who else is impacted? Let's get them in there. And then Jeff mentioned the compass, and this is my, I think I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is my last slide. And you guys can have this. This is the other thing that's it's printed out, it's above my desk. Where are we? Are they satisfied? Are they aware of a problem? Have we pinpointed and calculated? Have we put something in front of them where they can say yes or no to a fix? Once they say yes to the fix, notice I haven't talked about anything except their problem until I'm in quadrant 3. That's when we would go in and be showing options for, oh, well, this is the kind of qualified plan we think you should be running. They've already agreed to let me fix it. So I've already sold it. Now we're just picking out options. This is like, I already know I'm getting a new pair of shoes. I'm just deciding what they look like. I like shoes. And then this is just and this again, because you guys can have this presentation, this gives you some insight into what we perceive as the differences between a benefits communicator and a change navigator.